Hey Ben, AJ here. Sorry this website audit took so long, but here it is. So first off, I just want to compliment you on the look of your website. I think you've done a fairly nice job here. The first thing that comes to mind from looking at this is a lack of content. And so one of the ways that Google knows how to show specific sites from searches is the words on the page. And so when we're looking at, what words should we put and what are your keywords? Well, here we have a list of all the top things that apply to you. And so they're ranked categorically from most searched to kind of least searched. This is what it says for search volume per month, but I always take this with a grain of salt. I just say that electricians is more searched than electrical contractors and kind of leave it at that. But if you go down here, you can see, there's quite a few different terms that would apply to you. So I'd suggest pausing this and kind of making a bit of a note. But basically, as it stands right now, when we look at electrician, your top keyword, it's not on the page once. And so that definitely needs to be addressed. When we're looking at electricians in Kelowna, we've kind of got your top competitors. These other ones are kind of like directory style sites and they shouldn't be ranking this high. So Google definitely likes to give preference to local businesses. So in my opinion, having, the top 3 B directories is an opportunity. But we're looking at electrician, Kelowna, Homes on Ohms, and Epic Electric as your top competitors. And we're looking at not a ton more content, but definitely more content. And then we look at the word electrician, and they've used it 6 times. And not only is it important to use your top keyword, but it's also important to use Kelowna as well, where you can. Here's Epic. Again, not a ton more content, but electrician and Kelowna 6 times. And then lastly, Hotwire. And these guys have done a little bit better of a job, definitely. And they've kind of really gone for it here. They've used electrician 17 times. I wouldn't suggest going this far based on these 3 kind of sites. I would keep it in the 6 to 10 range. And in order to do that properly, I would suggest having somewhere between 1,000 and 2,000 words. And that probably sounds like a lot, but in order to get, electrician in there a few times and a few more of these keywords, you're going to want to have a bit more content. And some ideas would be kind of, you've got residential as a service, commercial, and, repairs and maintenance or whatever this is. Expand on that and expand on, why someone should hire your company on your page. I guess this kind of says that, but yeah, there's lots of different things you can expand on. Another thing would be your H tags. So when we click into here, we can see that this is an H1, so that's good. So this is the very first thing that Google reads when it comes on your page. And so good practice is to have your top keyword and your location in this H1 tag. And so the first thing Google should read on your site is that you're an electrician in Kelowna. So I would adjust this H1 tag, and if you wanted to bump this down to like an H2 or something and maybe make it a little bit smaller print, that's totally cool. And then we look at another thing called alt text. I guess that's a background image. So this is the text that Google reads or that would get read to a person that was blind. And so right now this image has the words of house frames. And so we could definitely improve that to be more relevant to you. So you could say something like, an electrician in Kelowna is getting ready to wire these brand new houses, or something like that. And again, same thing goes here. This is house construction, but you can definitely come up with better words. So this is alt text, and these builders make it pretty easy to modify this. And this one says image by Ronan for Ruta. Don't think that really applies to you. So once you get all that figured out, the next thing to be addressed would be the quantity of pages you have on your site. So right now you're sitting at 6. Homes on Ohms is sitting at 58. These guys are at 140, and this is 61. So these are your top competitors, and so you always want to compare yourself to the people that are doing it right now. And so you're thinking, like, how do I get more pages like that? Well, just kind of taking a look at what these guys are doing. They have their services broken out, and I would suggest doing this in as many stages as possible. So I would even have commercial and industrial as a separate page. These guys have their services kind of laid out here. So I would look at, what are other people saying their services are, and if you think that's something you're capable of doing, I would just make another page instead of adding it to just one page. Like here you have kind of all your services. I would make individual pages for each of these as much as possible. And then that only gets you to a certain point. That might get you to, 15 or 20 pages. But the best way to make up that difference is adding a blog. And the trick to that, well, it's not really a trick. You want to be answering questions that people are asking. And so when we come over here to Epic Electric, they've got a blog. And I think they've done a pretty good job in terms of, what they're calling it and the quantity of articles they have here. And these look like real questions people could ask. And so we get into there, and yeah, I think they've done a really good job. Usually the blogs I recommend to people to make are like about 500 words, a couple of pictures. If you can make them pictures that you've taken yourself, even better, but it's not completely necessary. And then here's an example of what not to do with a blog. So these guys are just doing it for SEO reasons and nothing else, but nobody is asking this question. What is a qualified Kelowna, BC electrical technician? And then here it just goes into keyword stuffing. And so this is definitely what not to do. So coming on to these guys, obviously you can get a lot of ideas for, you can kind of steal their titles and make new articles. It's a good thing to do. Or this site is called Answer the Public. And so we've typed in electricians here. And this gives a list of, this site like kind of amalgamates all the questions people ask about or with electricians. And so it goes through the different, as you can see. So yeah, I mean, not all of these are going to be great blog articles, but you can definitely see how this can give you some ideas. And lastly, I know I've touched on this in BNI, but a good old-fashioned Google search, like what electrician. So this is, again, what people are actually searching. And then you just type your keyword and then just change this word. And you get a whole bunch of different ideas for what people are actually searching. So then you would title your articles this and answer that question. And lastly, this is the title of your site. And so again, making sure you have your top keyword and your location in your title is important. And then I like to have one variation of that in your title and then do a different variation in your description. So right now this is just pulling from the first paragraph on your homepage, but you can actually change this to be completely custom. And so just as an example, yeah, so these guys are using electricians Kelowna in their title. Electricians in Kelowna, Kelowna electrician. These guys aren't, and they're the exception. And then these guys here as well using Kelowna electrician. And so, yeah, if you can tidy up those two things, you'll definitely see a bump in your rankings. With it being kind of competitive in Kelowna, I can't say for sure that just these things are going to be enough. You probably would need to do a link building campaign on top of this. But we can definitely discuss that more if you have more questions. So that's your website audit. I hope you got some value.